All right, hello. Good afternoon, good evening, I suppose. So more the phrase for right now, but I'm meteorologist Kit Thomas. We're streaming right now on Facebook, YouTube, and on our ABC 24 Plus app as well. So if you are joining us on Facebook, we appreciate you, and hopefully you can pop down in the comments, let us know where you're watching from. We're going to talk about some of the severe weather we've got on the way as we head into our Saturday. You can see here, already have an enhanced risk for us across most of our viewing area, especially into northern Mississippi and southeastern parts of Arkansas. As you go farther north, that threat does diminish, but it is still present, and we want to be aware of this. So time right now is around 7:38. We're just getting started here, so if you are just joining us, be sure to pop down in the comments, let us know where you're watching from. And I'll also give this a share so that your friends and family can be watching along as well. Of course, the replay will still be up on our Facebook page and on our ABC 24 Plus app, as well as on YouTube as well. Let's start things off though. Look here into Cordova this evening. Looks like a planet is shining there brightly. That actually might be a lens flare. Not entirely sure, but you know, we've got a few planets out there this evening, and it's this time of year right now. We've got a lot of planets up. Looking at 51 degrees currently in Memphis. It's much colder to the north, though, in Blytheville, Arkansas, there at 35 degrees. You can see a little more clearly here on this map. We've got sort of a stationary boundary. I'll draw it on the map here. That's sort of dividing our temperatures across our area. Colder to the north, warmer to the south. It's a pretty steep gradient for us. And that's bringing those temperatures down into the 30s across the northern part of our viewing area, some much warmer to the south. But this is a view of satellite and radar. We are starting to see some of the moisture moving its way across the I-20 corridor into parts of southern Arkansas, where we could see some showers and thunderstorms developing the next several hours. This is not the severe threat, though. The severe threat is all tomorrow afternoon, but we do have rain coming in as we go over the next couple of hours tonight, and that's the rain that we're seeing here. We'll zoom in on it. We'll get just a quick pause there. Some thunder showers there north of Texarkana, Arkansas, south of the Greenville, Mississippi area, down along the I-20 corridor. Some thunder showers starting off there. You can even tell on the satellite picture right in here, we've got the rain that's right there, but then those cloud tops are blowing off to the east very quickly, creating sort of this anvil cloud with some of these thunder showers. So that's something that we're already seeing, is that we have the shear in the atmosphere. So shear is where you have changing winds with height. We've got the storms that are moving at the surface, but then up above, they're blowing off those cloud tops pretty quickly there to our south. Across Arkansas, we're not seeing as much convection, so they're not quite getting into that jet stream. But the jet stream off towards the west is the one that's really going to bring in the fast winds. Let's loop this here over the last 3 hours. It'll take a second for the satellite data to load in, but you can really tell that we've got some pretty intense winds here across Oklahoma into West Texas. These fast-moving winds, these fast clouds that you can see, is the jet stream that once it makes its way to us here in Memphis, it's going to sort of pivot. So it's oriented like this right now. It's going to pivot and go more south to north as we go into the afternoon tomorrow. So that's going to kick off our severe weather as we head through the afternoon. So we've got a couple of things happening. Overnight, we've got showers and thunderstorms moving in, and then a warm front pushes through probably earlier in the day than I drew this, but we'll start to see those temperatures warm up very, very quickly. And notice we're in the warm sector. So behind the front is where you have the air mass by the front's name. So behind the warm front is the warm air. Behind the cold front is the cold air. So all of this air that we've got out here into Mississippi, into parts of southern Arkansas, this is very warm air. We're likely going to be in the 70s around this area, and we're going to get close to the 70s here around the Memphis metro. I think we'll hit 71 tomorrow afternoon for our high, right before that cold front pushes in. So around 7 o'clock, that's when the cold front is coming in. That's when we have the rain and thunderstorms around the area. Cold air settles in behind it. I'll sneak you a preview of next week before we really dive into the severe weather. Next week, we're looking at another low dropping off of Colorado, but it drops very, very far south, and that brings us into much colder air. We might see some snow. It's not going to be snowmageddon like it was in January, but it will be some snow for us, it looks like, as we head into next week. Now, let's break down the timing of these showers and thunderstorms that we're looking at. So tonight, we've got showers moving through around 10 o'clock. More scattered showers all the way through the wee hours of the morning, so 1, 2, 3 a.m. But notice how we've got that stout southern wind, so the warm front in effect has already pushed through at this time, or is pushing through. And it's pushing in a lot of moisture into this band of heavy rain. Notice how it's staying north of I-40. That's going to be the case for most of the first half of this event, the severe being the second half. We're starting off with a chance for some very, very heavy rainfall into the afternoon. We could see some flash flooding developing across most of our northern viewing area, especially into western Tennessee. Notice that burgundy shade there. Between Covington and Dyersburg. That's some very deep convection, very, very heavy rainfall. We usually don't see this amount of moisture in the atmosphere this time of year. Here in mid-February, we don't see the amount of moisture that we have for this event. It's a very rare event that we see this. Now, as we go into the 3 to 5 o'clock time frame, that's when the cold front starts to swing in, and that's going to kick off some severe thunderstorms. What has my eye a little worried is this little doohickey right here. This is just a storm out ahead of the front. And you can see that it's coming up from Clarksdale, just going back and forth. Clarksdale, Holly Springs, Bolivar, that is an isolated cell, an isolated storm that is in this very warm environment out ahead of the cold front. So all of this warm air is untapped potential energy. The thunderstorms back here are tapping in and using everything they can, but out ahead, there's nothing else around that single storm. So this is basically our isolated tornado threat. If we were to have a long track tornado, this is going to be what it will look like tomorrow. So that's got me a little worried that the model's already trying to throw something like that out. And just the shape of it, that is the shape of a supercell. This is a low resolution, or a high resolution model compared to all models, but it's a low resolution compared to just individual thunderstorms. They can be sometimes smaller than a model can represent, but it's still representing that. All that mumbo jumbo to say, it is at least concerning that it's already catching on to maybe an isolated supercell. Supercells, of course, lead to tornadoes, can lead to damaging winds, can lead to hail. They can bring in, all of the different severe weather threats. So then as we go to 5 o'clock, that's when we've got the line of thunderstorms. This is going to be the damaging wind threat, I think. Isolated storms will have a predominant tornado threat. Linear thunderstorms will have a more wind threat. But within that line, sometimes you can get, I'll diagram it like this, you can get sort of a push forward. If down is forward, you can get that push forward on one side of the line, and that can induce some rotation right along the edge of that line. So we're still going to see a tornado threat with this line of thunderstorms as they blow through, probably around the 4 to 8 o'clock time frame. Our more eastern viewing area, seeing things starting up. Of course, we've got more of those isolated storms ahead of the line. Around 8 o'clock, that'll continue until about 10, then it moves out of our viewing area, and it will start to transition more to straight line wind and less tornado threat. But we're looking at the heavy rain wrapping up here in Memphis around 10 to 11 o'clock and across our viewing area, clearing out by midnight. So that's the breakdown of the timing. We've got a couple of people in here. Justin, mother of pearl. Yeah, whenever we have this kind of a setup, it can be a little daunting. Kyra Mitchell is also in. Thanks for the info. We rock. Appreciate it. Yeah, so I want to take a look at another thing. This is something we don't talk about very much because it usually doesn't come up on your standard thunderstorm setup. But this is what we're calling storm spin energy. It's called the Enhanced Helicity Index, but that's just a big mumbo jumbo. It's the nature of the atmosphere to spin. This current setup, how much it's going to spin. And we've got some moderate spin energy likely for tomorrow. Spin in the atmosphere, of course, you think of tornadoes. They are what spin, and that's what we're looking at here. We could have, around 2 o'clock, a pretty decent amount of that spin energy. Notice it's not up to the high end of the scale. It's on the lower orange side, so that is encouraging that it's not going to go gangbusters with tons and tons of tornado energy, but it is still present. And it's still something we need to keep our minds aware of, that we're likely to see some tornadoes. And the Storm Prediction Center, who issues the convective outlooks, the enhanced, the level 1 through 5 that we are talking about, they also issue sort of a breakdown of those threats. So we've got this, I'll pop it back up here. We've got that level 3 threat, the orange, across much of our area. The breakdown is the tornado threat here. We've got that hatch mark in the yellow. The yellow is a 10% chance of anywhere any dot is within 25 miles of any dot. You could see a tornado, 10% chance. That's a decent chance, don't get me wrong. 10% sounds low. It is a more likely chance for tornadoes in that yellow rather than the 5 or 2 in the brown and orange there. But whenever you see the hatch marks there, that is... I see Matt Stringer already asking how much snow we're getting. We'll talk about snow after the severe. We'll get back to that. But whenever we see the hatch mark, that means it's going to be a significant threat. So whenever we talk about tornado threats, a significant threat would be an EF2 or stronger tornado. Of course, that's really difficult to forecast what an individual storm's inevitable tornado will be rated. Of course, ratings are always done in post after the event. The National Weather Service goes out and surveys the damage, and if they see certain factors, that's what they give the tornado rating for. But the conditions of the environment do lead to stronger tornadoes, and that's what we're seeing tomorrow, is a likelihood of very strong, violent tornadoes, long track tornadoes. And it's not just here, it's all the way back into parts of Louisiana, northern Louisiana, north of Alexandria, through Jackson, Mississippi, through Greenville, Mississippi, El Dorado, Arkansas, up into our southern viewing area. It's all going to be under that hatched risk. And then the tornado threat actually continues overnight as that front pushes all the way through. Going back to the severe wind threat, we don't have a significant threat here, but we do still have a more widespread threat. We'll likely see warning followed by another warning followed by another warning. We're going to see these lines of thunderstorms producing severe winds. Upwards of 58 miles per hour is the severe threshold. We could see maybe 60 to 70 mile per hour winds, I think, with this event. Maybe an isolated chance of 75 mile per hour winds. I think that's on the high end, though. 60 to 70 is where I'm a little more comfortable. And then tomorrow, the hail threat. Notice that it doesn't go as far east as the severe wind threat, because we're looking at more of those isolated storms. In the early afternoon, those could be more the chance for producing hail. Whenever you have a supercell, an individual thunderstorm out ahead of the line, that can tap into the energy and build very deep thunderstorms, and that's where you get hail production. Whenever you have the line coming through, that's more straight line winds. It doesn't go up in such a building manner as an isolated storm, so you have more of a wind threat. And that's especially what happens after we go past sundowns. We lose the energy to get those tall thunderstorms, and we start to transition more to straight line winds. So early in the day, we'll have a hail threat, I think only up to an inch, maybe ping pong ball size, which would be 1.25 inches. But as we go past 8 o'clock, I think the hail threat will greatly diminish. The other side of this is the rain. Haven't really talked much about the rain, but remember how we were looking at before the severe all the way up through about 2 o'clock? We just have tons and tons of rain showers north of I-40. That's going to lead to a pretty significant flash flood threat, especially for areas like Dyersburg, Crockett County, Lauderdale County, the Covington area, and then just outside of our viewing area. Notice that blue shade there. I'll highlight it here. This blue shade is upwards of 10 inches of rainfall in a very short amount of time. Like 10 inches for a month would be a very rainy month. But this is all coming down within 18 hours. We'll put a wide bookend on it. 18 hours of 10 inches of rain, with times getting an inch or 2 inches in an hour. Very, very heavy rain like that is going to cause flooding no matter what. But think back the last week. We had 2 days of long, dreary, heavy soaking rain. So the grounds are already saturated. Creeks and streams are already pretty full, maybe not quite to capacity, but some of them already starting to get up to flood stage or near flood stage. So we've got a pretty significant chance for flash flooding tomorrow. This is another threat index from a different division, so it's only out of 4 categories rather than 5 for the severe threats. But we've got that level 4 of 4 across parts of our northern viewing area. So a high risk day for flash flooding. Matt, I'm seeing your comment of yellow snow. A higher risk of flooding, those days account for 80% of all flooding damage. So earlier this week, we had a level 1 threat for flash flooding, a level 2 in part of our area. So it was possible we could see some flash flooding, but it really didn't cause a lot of damage or a lot of headaches. There was some ponding on roads. There were some just drizzly, dreary commutes out there, but we didn't see a lot of high impact. This is going to be a high impact flood event, especially to our north. Creeks and streams are going to be spilling over their banks. If you live near a floodplain of a small river, that river could burst its banks as well. It's hard to compare one flooding event to another, but an example of a high-risk day was Hurricane Helene coming into the Appalachians. That was another high-risk day. We're not seeing quite that amount of rainfall or quite that level of damage. Of course, they're completely separate events, but a high-risk day, you really, really need to take it seriously. So, of course, if you come across a flooded road, finding another way around is your best bet, because anytime you have moving floodwaters, I think it's 6 inches can move a sedan, 12 inches can move a truck, 18 inches can move a semi. So you never want to go through a flooded road that has moving water, even stagnant water. You just don't want to deal with it. So we'll take a quick breather. Tomorrow, we're looking at a low in the morning, probably before daybreak. The low will be 45. Then we get that warm front coming in, and we'll start to warm things back up before sunrise. Then around 71 degrees for our high. So it's going to be pretty warm in the afternoon for us. I'm going a little higher than our guidance was showing. Our guidance was showing around 69, 70. But today I got burned. Yesterday I got burned. I've got my forecast notebook here. On Wednesday, my forecast for Thursday was 40. We hit 42. My forecast for today was 52. We hit 54. So I'm going a little higher because guidance tends to be a little too cool. I think we could hit 70 degrees again tomorrow. Here's your 7-day forecast, though. Things really change after this. Remember, a cold front's coming through. We're going to feel it on Sunday. We've got potential for temperatures to drop down into the 40s for several days. But notice what it does to our lows. By Monday morning, lows in the 20s. We warm up a little bit on Tuesday, but then we've got another system coming in. Remember how I showed that snow system coming in? That's going to come Tuesday night into Wednesday, so it's not the daytime. That's why it just says cloudy. But we could see some snow, possibly, as we go Tuesday night into Wednesday. And temperatures are going to be very cold after that system comes through. We've been keeping an eye of another Arctic outbreak, and this is what it looks like. We haven't had a lot of deep, deep cold in February in recent years. So this is across much of the country. We're going to be very cold, but 12 degrees, it's a bit bold. I might amend that as we get into next week, but 12 degrees is what guidance is pointing at right now. And then as we get to Friday, again, teens for lows, but we get back above freezing again. So it's going to be a cold week. Of course, folks are asking about the snowfall. I'll go back to that graphic once again. So we start off, we've got that snow across the Central Plains, and notice how the low is much farther south this time, rather than it carrying how this current low is, which is going more east to west. This one is diving straight south and then catching some warmer air along the Gulf, and that's going to bring in more of the moisture across our area. So there's the low just off the coast from Houston. And then we're deep, deep into the cold air up here, so that's why we're looking at the chance for some snow to come through. That'll bring us maybe a couple of inches. If I were to put a high limit, like the highest that we'll see, I would say 4 inches is the absolute highest. I don't think that's likely. I would maybe put it at about a 1 in 10 shot of that much snow. All of the model consensus right now has been lingering around 1 to 2 inches, so it's not going to be a major snowstorm like the 7 to 9 we saw back in January. That's about all that I have for my presentation here for our discussion. Didn't have a ton of comments, but I do appreciate everyone who was here. If you have any more questions before we wrap up, I'll give you a couple of minutes to catch up to the stream and to ask any questions that you've got. Matt Stringer here even giving a comment of, in his experience, 6 inches can move plenty. Yeah, you never want to mess around with water. Even if it's a shallow amount of water, it can even sweep you off of your feet. So it really is something you don't want to mess around with. Again, of course, we're talking about the tornado threat. I'm personally more concerned about the flash flooding threat because it is a high risk. Of course, it really just depends on where you are. If you're not in the flooding risk and you're in the severe risk, you're in the tornado risk, that's going to be more of an impact for you. But again, north of I-40, that 4 to 10 inches of rain and a pretty broad brush, that's going to be the main threat north of I-40. South of I-40, 1 to 2 inches of rain, still decent amount of rainfall, but it's going to be more that extreme wind and the tornado threat coming for us. All right, so things are getting close to 8 o'clock here. I think we're going to wrap things up. I've got to get ready for the 9 o'clock show on our CW channel here, CW 30. And then, of course, we've got ABC 24 News at 10 o'clock as well. We're going to have more details. Probably not going to refine much more. I'm pretty happy with 71 for tomorrow's high. And of course, I will actually be in tomorrow. Of course, we no longer have local weekend weather. WBIR has been, from Knoxville, has been helping us out on weekends. But I'm going to pull an extra shift and come in tomorrow so that we have some local live weather coverage through the event. So hopefully you'll join us tonight at 9 and 10, and then tomorrow we will likely have cut-ins over programming. If we have severe thunderstorm warnings, tornado warnings, we will be live outside of our normal newscast hours. Of course, our normal newscast is at 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock and on ABC, and of course the 9 o'clock on the CW. So for everyone here at ABC 24, we appreciate you watching. For Judy Black, who's helping me out with the live stream, we thank you for joining us.